Welcome to Esotericism. Gnosticism 101. The Fall of Man and Creation of Humanity. In most versions of the biblical story, the creation of humanity is one of God's crowning achievements. A perfect act by a perfect being. But in Gnostic tradition, it's a very different tale. Here, humanity's creation is not an act of perfection, but of cosmic error. It's the story of a flawed being trying to imitate the divine, and the desperate attempt of higher powers to rescue a spark of truth from within his imperfect creation. Today, we're exploring the Gnostic account of the fall of man and the creation of humanity, drawing from texts like the Apocryphon of John and the Hypostasis of the Archons. Before humanity ever walked the earth, there was the pleroma, the fullness of divine light and harmony. From the pleroma emanated countless eons, spiritual beings who reflected the nature of the One, the supreme, unknowable source. Among these eons was Sophia, wisdom, whose compassion and longing to know the source more deeply led her to act without her consort. In her solitary desire, she brought forth a being unlike the others. Not a harmonious emanation, but a malformed entity born outside the order of the pleroma. This being was Yaldabaoth, also called the Demiurge. A proud, ignorant craftsman who believed himself to be the only god. In some texts, he is depicted with the face of a lion and the body of a serpent, symbolizing his ferocity and his deceptive nature. Separated from the true light, Yaldabaoth set about creating his own realm, the material universe. It was a flawed imitation of the spiritual realm he had never truly seen, a shadow world shaped by his ignorance. To populate and govern his creation, he produced the Archons. Strange, hybrid rulers, each assigned a domain within the cosmos. Together, they acted as wardens, keeping the spiritual sparks trapped in material form. But the Demiurge was ambitious. He wanted to make something in his own image, a being that could rule over the earth on his behalf. According to the Apocryphon of John, the Archons fashioned the body of the first human, Adam, from the elements of the material world. They built his form carefully, head, limbs, organs. But their creation was lifeless, an empty shell. They could imitate the form of life, but not its essence. Sophia, watching from outside their realm, saw the form they had made, and she recognized an opportunity. Though she had created Yaldabaoth in error, she still longed to restore what had been lost. Into this lifeless figure, she secretly breathed a portion of the divine light. The same light she had inherited from the source. When the light entered Adam, he stirred. The breath of Sophia gave him awareness, and with it, the potential for gnosis, the direct knowledge of his true origin. But the Archons were enraged. They had wanted a servant, not a being filled with divine essence. They saw that Adam was brighter, more aware, more alive than they had intended. In their jealousy, they cast him into the lowest realms, surrounding him with forgetfulness so that he would not realize what he was. Realizing Adam needed a counterpart, the higher realms again intervened. In some Gnostic texts, Eve is brought forth not from Adam's rib, but from a vision, a reflection of the divine light within him. She too carried the spark. The Archons saw Eve and desired her. According to the hypostasis of the Archons, they attempted to overpower her, but she called out to the higher realms. Sophia and other divine powers protected her, and she escaped their grasp. From her would come Norea, a figure who in some Gnostic traditions is seen as the daughter of Adam and Eve, and a fierce opponent of the Archons. The hypostasis of the Archons tells of Norea refusing to submit to the rulers of this world. When they tried to seduce or coerce her, she confronted them directly, declaring, "You are rulers, but I am not your descendant. I am from the world above." She attempted to board Noah's Ark to survive the coming flood, but was barred entry by the Archons. In anger, she blew upon the ark and set it aflame, an act of rebellion that underscored her rejection of their authority. In the Gnostic telling, the so-called fall is not about disobeying God's command in the Garden of Eden. It is about the soul's descent into the material realm, a place governed by false rulers and kept in ignorance. Adam and Eve's expulsion from the garden symbolizes the confinement of the divine spark within the human body, trapped in a world of limitation, mortality, and deception. The serpent in the garden, often vilified in the biblical account, is sometimes reinterpreted by Gnostics as a messenger of wisdom, bringing knowledge of their true condition. Though Gnosticism framed this story in its own unique cosmology, parallels can be found elsewhere. In Mesopotamian myths, divine beings shape humanity from clay, sometimes for the purpose of servitude. In some Sumerian accounts, the Anunnaki fashion humans as workers for their earthly domains. The overlap is not perfect, but the idea of humanity being shaped by lesser beings, rather than the ultimate source, is a thread that runs through more than one ancient tradition. For the Gnostics, the story of humanity's creation is also the story of its potential redemption. The divine spark may be trapped, but it is not extinguished. Through Gnosis, the awakening to our true origin, the soul can transcend the rulers of this world and return to the pleroma. In this way, the fall is only the first half of the story. The second half is the ascent, the journey back to the light. The Gnostic creation myth reframes everything we think we know about human origins. It is not the tale of a perfect garden lost through sin, but of a flawed world into which we were placed, and from which we are meant to awaken. If you found this perspective thought-provoking, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Have you come across other creation stories that echo the same theme of imperfect makers? Do you see these myths as symbolic, or could they hold traces of a hidden history? How do you interpret the roles of Adam, Eve, and the serpent? As villains, victims, or liberators? The Gnostics believed that even in the darkest realm, the light remains within us. And when the spark remembers its origin, no prison, cosmic or otherwise, can hold it forever. So listen for the quiet truth that stirs beneath the noise of this world. It may be the same voice that has been calling humanity home since the very beginning.